Ireland and the United Kingdom. Hope it gives you an idea on the type and of cattle over there and how the cattle are housed and looked after. This is the first farm we visited on the first day. That's Dr. Richard Pickler in the middle. He's the head of the Austrian Simmental Society. These are young calves here being reared in their pens. Each calf's got a collar, as you can see. These are the people that own the farm, Carl and Elizabeth Grundop. Full history of the AI program, bulls used, production figures for cows, all those sorts of things. Calves have got collars, so their intake of milk, as you can see there, was governed and not overfed. They don't like to overfeed them. Everything's giving, they're very strict in their feeding of their cattle. They don't want them to put on too much weight, burns them out too quick. Here we see the young, or a little bit older calves here. That's the maize silage they get, just put on the concrete floors. Here's the bunker for the corn silage. That's Terry Coulahan there, Max, and that's Jeff Caddett from Western Australia, Wendy Cook, Alan Anderson there at the rear looks like he's talking to one of the Austrian people. This is their silage barn, or the hay barn stored there. It's my daughter Karen. In the days, that's the first day we'd got there. This is within about 1 hour of arriving at the airport. They took us up to see the farms after a 30-hour flight, so you can imagine how we felt. But it was pretty exciting seeing the cattle. Here they have overhead cranes, pick up the hay and also the straw, and that is put in a mix oil. Don't know what that is. These are the older cows. This is another farm we went to. This is a little bit later. There's Dr. Pickler there, waving his hands about. This is actually 3 farmers combined to have a total herd of about 100 head, which is considered pretty big. These fellas got together and they picked Simmentals. Well, 86% of the cattle in Austria are Simmentals because of their dual purpose, benefits. High milk and high beef, all well fed, as you can see, mostly corn silage. They do really well. Very content, the cattle. Good looking cattle. Not big frame, but very heavy, as you can see. These are milking cows, you must remember. Collars on their legs. You see the collars on their legs? They're detectors to tell when the cow's coming on in heat. They stamp their feet more. That cow in the background there, she's getting a back scratch. It's just a broom head, very harsh broom head, on a coil spring. Cattle rub up against it, you see, and scratch themselves. That's Gary Minchin from Western Australia there. Very steep pitch on the barn keep the snow off. Has 100 head capacity, that barn. It's only a new barn. Cattle are housed there all the time, and the feed's brought to them, poured on the concrete floor in front of them. It was a bit of a cold, damp, wet day that first day we arrived. But as you can see, very nice looking cattle. Of what you can see of them anyway. As Homer Simpson says, it's the best I can do. This is in Vienna, the main town of Vienna. I'll just show you a little bit, just to show you the magnificent buildings that are there in central Vienna. Our guide was the ex-mayor of Vienna, who had been mayor for the previous 20 years, so he knew everybody and knew everything, so he was very good as our guide, and he was supplied by the Austrian Simmental Society. They were excellent to us. So that's one of the many buildings. Architecture, it's unbelievable. It's virtually in the very centre of Vienna. I'll stop it here and carry on with more cattle. There's an English pointer. I like English pointers. This is the Schönbrunn Palace. I suppose people who have horses would know of that palace. This is where the Lipizzaner stallions, or the Lipizzaner horses, dancing horses, are kept. That when they have their performances in the arena. They weren't there at the time. They take them in the summer. They take them and spell them in the paddocks. I think the actual performances in winter. Yeah, that's the actual archway there. You can see that's where the horses are housed. They come out through that and they go into these big halls here and do their performances. The Lipizzaner horses. A bit more of Vienna there. This is another farm we went to. There's another small herd of Simmentals. I don't know, probably 30, 40 head, milking cows, as you can see. Terrific udders, terrific temperament. There's Alan Anderson there. As you can see, the cows aren't too big in frame. They look at a mature height of about 145, the Austrians. These are young calves being reared. They get a bit of a free play out in the paddocks. That's Karen, falling in love with one of the cows, as she usually does. Anybody looking for a little bit of milk in their herd, I don't think they could go past these. Karen works at a dairy herd there. She can saying, look at the mill vein. This is, I think this was his highest production cow. I don't know, probably, around the 9,000 kilograms, which is about 8.8 thousand litres of milk. This is another farm. That's David Wakeman, of course, David Wakeman's head there. But I was doing this so you could see the maize, the corn in the background. Everywhere you look, just corn, made, chopped, put in pits and bunkers and fed to the cattle as they need it. Yeah, through the winter months and even the summer months. The cattle rarely go out. No fences in the paddocks, so it allows them to get right up to boundaries to green chop. This is a farm we went to. This is actually a farm where they fatten young bulls. They buy them at. Oh no, this is another dairy herd here. Another modern building. As you can see, the cows are getting their feed there. They just put their head through, eat as they wish. That's a silage bunker out the back. This fellow, I think, also got about 100 head. Here you can see the cows. They each know their own individual pen. They'll go, or stall. They'll go back to that stall, and no problems, no fights, no nothing. And as they stand up, look at the size of that cow, the beefness of that cow and the milk. She's got a salt lick there. The slats in the floor will let the dung out into a trench, and then it's pumped out onto the fields for fertiliser. These are their young calf rearing pens. Pretty well looked after. I suppose if you've been doing it for centuries, you get to know what the animals want and don't want. This is a bull testing. I think it's a bull testing station. These are young bulls that are just kept, and as you can see, they're only in a pen of about 12 feet by 12 feet. Usually about seven kept in there. You start off perhaps with a few more, and then they as they get bigger, they take a few out. They don't have too much room to move about, as you can see. Eat and grow. Yeah, this is a bull fattening farm. Yeah. There's a smaller pen, smaller calves. You can see more calves in there. The calves are kept as bulls, not they're not cut in any way. The meat remains tender, I suppose, by being fed like that and not moving about. Slaughtered at 15 or 16 months. This is a AI centre. This is the largest AI centre in Austria. They were the younger bulls there being tested, put on weight, and then they're at about 15 months they're put out into the hills to grow out in the summertime a bit. These are their AI bulls. That's virtually where they're kept. They don't move from there. Only to be collected, that's it. So they're, a lot of times they're very much hunched up. As you can see, they haven't got a lot of room to move or walk about. So when you do get to see the bulls walk, they're very, very stiff. I suppose it would be even at that sort of weight. These bulls, I don't know, they'd be around the 1,200 kilos. All these people you see will be the Australian contingent of about 30 that went over, did the pre-Congress tour. These are the bulls looking at us as we're leaving, as if to say, could I get out please? This is another high altitude dairy we went to, Simmental Farm. I think it's at an altitude of 2,000 metres, which makes it about the height of Kosciuszko. So cattle only get a bit of green feed in the summertime. Wintertime there's about 4 foot of snow over that place. See, they're quite contented even though they've got a small area. That's their pastures. And that's the hills they have to work. Very meticulous. That's that's Frank, what's his name, from Melbourne. Here he's going to call the cows out so we can get a look at them as they come out. So you'll be able to see them. So these cows get a little bit of a walk around in the day, so they don't walk too badly. You can see, this would have been about 11 o'clock, I suppose, so they would have been milked in the morning, and it's halfway through the day, so you can see the condition of the udders. Some of these cows could have a little bit of red Holstein in them. That's his young boy, they're calling him, but stopping him from going out into the paddock. But terrific udders, as you can see. Perfectly placed tits. She's an older type cow, old cow, that one. Probably very high production cow, probably getting up near the, I don't know, 80 to 90,000 lifetime. 80,000 to 90,000 litres in their lifetime. I think this was his highest production cow here, as you can see. Terrific capacity on that udder. Look at the width of the front quarters there. Still beefy enough too for a beef cow. But you got to remember, they're working cows. They're cows that are milking, 8,000 litres. So that's as much as any Holstein Friesian will milk here. And yet they're carrying a lot more body condition. You see the milk vein going through her to over there. Quite a big fore and rear quarter, well attached. She's not walking too well, that cow. She's a bit stiff. He's probably that cow there is probably his highest production cow. That's Karen, my daughter, so you'll have to forgive me if she's in the film quite a bit, but she's pretty keen on udders. She's works on a Illawarra dairy, and first thing she looks for is udder. Conformation and capacity. This is in the chap's house. He invited us in and then gave us all drinks and whatnot. Oh, they're wonderful people. Great hospitality. That's Audrey Wakeman, Wendy Cook, David Wakeman, Grant Mayburn. That's These are some of the heads that were caught in the hills up there. This farm here, they buy young bull calves that are, calves that come off those dairy cows or the simmies there, and then they buy them at about $10 a kilo and buy them at 120 kilos weight. So you're looking at about $1,200 for a calf. That's could be maybe not even 5 weeks old, 120 kilos. So they fatten these calves. There's the maize silage there. That, as you can see how high it is. Most of that is kept for these calves raised. So these are potty calves, so you can see they don't get a real good start in life. They have it pretty hard done by. They're not like our calves that are raised on their mothers and getting the milk all the time. You can see they're a little bit potty and a bit weedy. But as you go through the pens, as they get older and older, you'll see the condition of these calves change. So you can already see them starting to change now, get a little bit more beefiness about them, sorry look. So these are all cull bull calves. None of these are kept for breeding. These are just slaughter calves for meat. You can see them in the pens, as I told you before, a pen roughly 12 by 12. That calf drinking out of a pig, one of those pig drinkers there. So these are all bull calves, so they're still looking a little bit babyish, calfish. The maximum age of these calves will be 15 to 16 months. Now these are starting to get a bit the older ones, as you can see. They don't want them any more than 15 to 16. This fella, I think he's Gelbvieh cross Simmental. Very thick looking calf, but they prefer the Simmentals, they said, because their feet handle their feet stand up to the concrete slats much better than any other breeds. They have Charolais, they don't want them. They've got the odd limo there, but 99.9% are Simmentals, as you can see. This is all in Austria. So they're fed that corn silage. That's about all they get is corn silage in the troughs there. And they help themselves just on the concrete floor there. And that's about where they stay. I think they're looking at about the 600, 650 kilograms at the 15 to 16 months of age, which isn't bad, considering you've got to consider the hard start they get when they're babies. It's only like raising a potty dairy calf. He's not a bad looking calf, is he? Quite thick there, quite broad. See a lot of them with the pigmented eyes. You'll see a lot with no pigment and very goggle-eyed too. Don't know what's happening. Here we go. This is the AI centre. This is Reed AI centre. We had to wear special boots over our shoes and hats for our hair so that we didn't contaminate the place. This is a young bull called Leonardo, 17 months old. He's just one of the young tested size. They'll take 5,000 doses off him, use 700, and then he'll go out. Then he'll go out to spell and progeny will be tested. This is what I meant about the bulls not being able to walk. As you can see, massive bull. Probably, I don't know, 1,400 plus kilograms, that bull. But they just don't walk. The only place they walk to is from the collection back to the pen. That's it. He's a bit stiff in the hind leg. But it's like, I suppose it's like us, if you were sitting down in the car for 12 hours, get out and try to walk, you virtually can't, can you? Well, that's what these fellas are trying to do. Doesn't help being led around just with a nose ring either. That's how they're paraded. I think that bull's name is Rani, that fella. He was quite massive. He looks big in the video, but you get up to him and he's even bigger. This farm has Maxwell and has Burned. He's not a bad looking bull, 17 months old. Quite a bit of depth, but I think he's going to be pretty tall, that fella. Bulls are tied up by the club. His name is Cass. I think it's K-A-S-S. Yeah, that's Cass, yeah. I think this fella's Rani. Yeah, Rani. You see it on his ear tag. Each animal in Europe now has to have 2 ear tags for identification for the BSE and whatever. There's another lot of bulls coming out. This fella's got a growth on his knee, but it doesn't seem to affect him. Joseph Meisenberger is the head of this Breed AI Centre. It's only been open a month, this AI Centre. It had only been open a month when we were there. So it's, as you can see, very new. The best of the best they have there. And these are their top bulls. But as you can see, the colour is not a main criteria for them, as they look on performance. Performance is everything. They have to be structurally correct, and then performance, both in milk, beef, and what they call fitness. Fitness is a value that's given to the animal as just to show his breeding value, his longevity, fertility, milkability. All of those are taken in structure. They're all taken into account, and then it gets a fitness value. See, as you can see, some of the bulls just perhaps not quite the right type for our conditions. Very broad bull there. With 700 inseminations from the first collection, you can see, the first collecting of the bull, you can see that they get a pretty good idea on how that bull's going to perform. As I said before, only 20 are kept. 20 bulls per year are kept to go into the AI centres. I think there's 5 in Austria. The top 1,300 cows, the top elite 1,300 top cows out of the herd of 1.86 million are inseminated and have a planned mating, and the resulting bull calves then are progeny tested, and performance tested and kept or culled, depending on how good or not so good they are. Lot of depth in that bull. This is the bull Burned. This is the fella that I'd hope to import. He has a very good carcass value. That's what he's showing up very well in carcass. Dressing percentage is perhaps not quite as big as it, but still a big bull. Fairly mobile sort of bull. I think he's about 7 years old there. Double pigment, as you can see, double goggle-eyed. Pretty good feet in comparison to the other bulls. Now you saw the cows walking, so those cows are out of bulls like these. So you're just trying to get him to stand up there, come up a bit better. Not a big frame bull, but I think he's about 158 centimetres. So they tell me it's about a frame score 7.5. I could be wrong. But as you can see, he's not as big a frame as the other bulls. 7-year-old. Again, that's why he's coming back out, so I can give you a few more figures on him in the book. He's by Ben's, on his sire side, Lolita on the dam side. Can give you lactations. The cow on a 6th lactation, she made 5,762 kilograms of milk, 4.79 butterfat, 3.3 protein. Her highest lactation was a 3rd lactation, 5,999 kilograms of milk. 5.07 was the butterfat. That's 5.07. They should raise good calves on a butterfat like that, and 3.5 protein. Ask your Frisian breeders near you if they can get that sort of protein out of their cattle and butterfat. He's by Benz on the sire side, and that's there's 3 Benzes in Austria, and one of them, I'm not sure it's this fellow or not, goes back to Dan Jaco Benz is a South African bull. His sire is Benz, and he is the sire of that Bar 5 Bernheim that they have imported, that Alta Genetics have imported from South Africa. So as you can see, the genetics go all over the world. This fellow's been exported to Brazil. Very high, I said, in carcass content. And carcass assessment, you should be able to find in the little literature that I send you. But I might go and get that, and I'll tell you what the carcass measurements are taken off. He has a milk index of 120, which means he's 20% above average. His flesh weight, or beef index, 103, and his fitness is 92. This fella, but this is this isn't the latest. The latest one I have. His wither height is 158. You can see the Aussie flag there. This is the other bull, Maxwell, that we talked about earlier. This is the other bull. As you can see, not as thick as you see on the photograph, but still a very deep-bodied animal. He is 4.5 years old here. He's on his own here as he is in quarantine. Quarantine in that he's not long come out of the herd, and he's separated from all the other bulls so that there's no chance of any sort of infection or any problem anyway. We had to view him through an iron gate. That's the bars of the gate that you can see there, and I've put the camera through the gate. So as you can see, they're very strict on their hygiene, genetics. They don't want any contamination. That's his pigment there, you can see on his right side. He's the same on the left. Very well hooded animal. 158 also in height. The latest that I've heard from Joseph Meiserberger, which was about 3 weeks ago, and he said the new figures will be out shortly, or they were out, and they were very encouraging. He's by Morris and Pia. Morris goes back to Moses, very thick bull. There you can have a good look at the bull there, standing very well, 4.5 years old. Terrific butt profile. You must remember, no walking either, this bull. He'd be tied up all the time. Stand up and lay down, that's all they get. There's his pigmentation there. They've taken the weight off him to, I suppose, improve the semen count. Very long animal. Hard to tell his length, I suppose, when he's so thick. Stands very wide. Well, to me he does anyway. You may be able to see things that I can't. He's off. I'll go back to that bull Leonardo. I've got some information on him too, that little young bull. Well, I suppose I could tell you about him, and you might be able to rewind it if you wanted to. This is another dairy herd we went to. Karen's so the extreme width on that cow there. Young calves, you see they're kept. This is just an old barn there. Same thing again, silage brought in, chop on the floor. You see, they're quite contented, the cattle, no problem about being upset or stirred up in any way. That young bull, Leonardo, he had a wither height of 140 centimetres, but that was on the 12th of the 4th, 99 he was born, which would be April, January, February, March, April 99. He had a weight of 105 kilograms. April, that would have been at about 14, 15 months, 705 kilograms. His daily growth was 1.583 kilograms a day. He's by Lock and the dam's Lotus. Now that Lotus was his father's father, and his dam was Owexi. She had her highest lactation was 7,895 kilograms of milk, 4.22 butterfat and 3.6 protein. With Karen going in the heifers, this is a Horb heifer in here. Dark red, goggle-eyed, dark goggle-eyed, very pretty heifer. Trying to get, that's her there as you can see. Horb was a very popular bull out in Germany. This is still Austria, but the semen is interchanged so they can test bulls, give them a greater idea on how the bulls perform. Everybody taking photos, lovely head, very pretty heifer. He threw dark red goggle-eyed calves all the time, that Torb. All the ones we saw were that colour. This is their fields, looking out over their fields. As you can see, no fences, but paddocks of wheat and of silage. Corn anyway for silage. I don't know where we are here. Oh yeah, this is in Salzburg. It's a town in Austria. This is the park there, and you'll see they had an exhibition of cows, fiberglass type cows anyway, an exhibition throughout the city, and there might be the odd one here. I'll show you, and I suppose you get sick of looking at cows all the time. Well, no, you don't really. It's nice to see the scenery, but it makes a good break. That's where Mozart lived at the age of 17. From 17 on, he lived here. See, as you can see, Mozart's house. And there's another place where he was born. It's called Mozart's Guest House. There's Peter Spears. There's a river running through the town there. Very pretty town. Yeah, there's one of those cows. They've all got different markings, you see. As you can see, a Simmy cow. It's Terry and Grant Mayfield. All doing the tourist bit, clicking the photos. I'll stop it here, we've seen enough scenery. That's Mozart's house, that's where he was born, in Salzburg. Beautiful town. Cows. That's the guide we had, and he was telling us about, what the cows meant and so forth. It had boots on it, that cow. This is a dairy we visited in, it seems odd calling them a dairy, but that's what they're there for. They milk them and sell the calves off, bull calves off for fattening, and then I suppose the cull cows. This herd, he'd increased his milk production by going to a total mixed ration from 6,000 kilograms to 9,600. That's the average, 9,600 kilograms of milk, with a 4.3 butterfat and 3.6 protein. So they're fed green chop. Well, that's virtually pure clover, that. But wonderful cows, these. This is in Germany. That bar that you can see above their head, it's 1.5 high. So as you can see, every cow virtually is 100 millimetres or 4 inches underneath that 1.5 or 5 foot. So those cows are 1400 centimetres high. So they're not big frame cows, but heavy, very heavy. Very consistent type, aren't they? Pretty even and high, don't they? That's 140 centimetres. See, I've sent Karen in to show you how tall or how short, or well, whatever the way you want to look at it, they are. Karen is about, I don't know, she'd be 5'2", I suppose. My daughter Karen, I think she's 5'2". Great temperament, the cows. I suppose they're with people all the time. You'd love to have a herd of them, wouldn't you? See the very small teats, modern udder, small teats, big capacity. That's what the genetics, the improvement in the genetics. These are young bulls that they've kept from out of their top cows themselves. Now these will be grown out, then sold at auction, and they could, you know, if he's got those elite cows in his herd, they could go on to end up in one of the AI centres. But they have to be elite cows by the AI sires. I think 80% of the herd in Austria and Germany are artificially inseminated. So you're looking at what, one in Austria, if there's 1.8 million, 80% of that, about 1.4, I suppose, 1.4 million doses, or 1.4 million cows inseminated a year. So it gives you a pretty good idea on how the bulls are performing. But they have different bloodlines that they've brought down through the ages. They call them the different, like the original sires, and they try to keep the bloodlines apart so that they have a greater variation in genetics, rather than selecting from one blood or one strain of one strain to kick the bulls. You know, they call the Balbo line and I think the Moses line, the Paris line, Parisienne. Yeah, just going through their bulls, the old bulls that they had. This Reed AI Centre is 50 years old. The centre we went to was the new station, but it was opened 50 years ago. This is Ludwig, I think Ludwig II's castle. This is the castle that's copied in Disneyland. I'll just tell you the bull lines. There's the Fiat bull line, Pulsar, Salomon, Moses, Paris, Morello and Street, all different bloodlines. They go back, like Morello goes back to Mario, Street goes back to Streeter, Moses goes back to Murat and then Mut, Paris goes back to Passat, and they try to keep those bloodlines separate, and they crisscross them, and just to get a greater genetic variation, and more or less like an outcross. Beautiful castle this. He went mad apparently, King Ludwig, and they found him dead in the river or something with his I think it was his psychiatrist, I'm not sure. I'm not much of a historian, but that's one of the bridges going over the one of the mountain streams. Unbelievable countryside, as you can see. This is going up a mountain, plenty of mountains to go up, I tell you. We're going up to a cheese factory here. Traditional Swiss chalet type house. Very steep hill here. Our bus actually, I think first gear was gone, second gear was gone in it. So he had to go from first to third, and of course the old bus would give a bit of a jerk. There the cheese is being made. Very popular cheese over there. Big business. It's a tradition, of course. Is that Frank Humphreys. Not B. Bear, but Frank Humphreys. Yeah, they're your traditional type cheese. Then you've got your camemberts and your soft cheeses there. This fella used to have a dairy, opened up this cheese factory, makes everything there himself, and then started selling it to tourists, and he's just developed from that, and now he buys the milk in, doesn't milk at all, just makes cheese. These are brown Swiss, or Braunvieh anyway. Oh, well, they call them brown Swiss. The Braunvieh is the older type of cattle. It's the more heavily, thicker type cattle. We visited these cattle because they were friends of ours. The rest of the Australians didn't come to this farm. Just Karen and I went. They picked us up from up at that milk farm, at the cheese farm, and took us down to their farm for a couple of hours while the others had their lunch up there, and we chatted and talked to these people, and they showed us around their farm. Wonderful people, you know, they really treat you well. Here he comes. This is, yeah, he's coming with a young calf just being born. Boom, poor calf. That's Andrew. A lot of them, you see the cow's horns, they are curved backwards, like especially that cow there. They have a leather halter, or not a halter, leather cuffs, which they put on the horns to train them to curl backwards like that. They're actually trained to curl like that. These are, as you can see, these are milking type brown Swiss. They're finer, bit finer boned, not as muscled, not as much weight as you can see, like the Simmies you saw. And yet the Simmies are milking more than these cattle, but everybody has their own special breed. I think we've probably seen enough of these brown Swiss. Simmies are what you want to see, I suppose. You can see the typical dairy type cow there, big bones on the pelvis there, pin to hip. Well, she's not too bad, but a lot of them will run forward pin to hip like that cow there, or not far off it. Very much like the Frisians. Tails are tied up so they don't make too much of a mess over themselves. I think environmentalists now have made them, they have to take their cattle out for so many hours a week on green pasture. So these cows would have been out for 2 or 3 hours that morning on green pasture, then brought in. Then they'd leave them in the pens, really, I suppose, to save their paddocks, to stop them from chopping up the paddocks. They get a higher yield out of the farm by keeping the cows penned, like we would. That's George, the tall fellow. There's the calves, the young calves being reared. They're a beautiful head, aren't they? I'll stop that now. This is in Switzerland now. It's at the Jungfrau, which is the highest, not the highest mountain in Europe, but it's the highest train station in Europe. As you can see, there's the Simmentals. They're grazing on the hills, very steep hills there. You see all the cows have bells on them. It lets the farmer know where they are, and also each bell has a distinctive ring. And it Karen fainted up there because it's a rarefied atmosphere, and she was running around like a... That's why her eyes were very glassy. I see the simmies there, and that's the sort of pasture they feed on. But it's very nutritious pasture because it only grows in the summertime. And the cows are put on it there, and all their milk is made into cheese. So walking on these pastures, as you can see, very steep hills, and like makes the cows very fit. So they've got good feet, good hooves, walk well. Not high lactations because they're not fed any supplements. See the big bell on that brown Swiss cow? Not fed any supplements, like no concentrates, but they're still milking about 5,500 litres. There's a couple there and amongst the trees, still quite thick hair. I don't know what that is, that's off my boot. I must have put the camera down. And we see the floor of the train there. Better another look outside, there we go. This is actually it's on around the back of the Matterhorn. You've heard of the Matterhorn? I think it's the highest mountain in Switzerland. A very foggy day, as you can see. I think now we're heading into the actual Sim Valley, where the Simmentals first originated. Tal meaning valley, Simmental. Simmental, that's where they originated in the Sim Valley. And then they spread throughout Europe, and of course the rest is history. It's all very windy roads there, very little roads. They're all well kept, well maintained, as you can see. Very meticulous with their countryside. That's Peter Spears doing his bit of filming. Very steep. Very picturesque. Quite different to what we're used to, and then they come out here and they find this place very picturesque. So I'm sure it's like everything else. It's a change that makes a difference. The camera is focusing on the spots of the water. We're going up to a farm, very high altitude farm. I don't know, probably, I think it's over 3,500 metres, which is about 10,000 feet. Look how steep that is. And there's a couple of brothers, the Matty brothers they're called, and the Swiss Simmental Society took us, or organised this trip for us, this outing. They're so far away from the towns, they have to, that no tankers get in up there because the road is so steep. We had to go on, switch onto a smaller bus, and then they let the cows out, as I said, overnight. They come in, and then they're milked only once a day, and all the milk is turned into cheese because transport's a problem. There's no power up there, and the cheese is boiled on an open fire, virtually in their lounge room of the hut. So you'll see a bit of it in a minute. Very versatile people that have been doing these for centuries. It's nothing to them. See all the wood stacked there for the winter? The traditional type Swiss hut. In winter time, I suppose there'd be 10 foot of snow here, perhaps even more, I don't know. I'll just fast forward that before, so it don't take too long. When we get up the top, I'll stop it. Cattle there, see the semi cattle, here we go. See, as you can see, narrow road, so no trucks can get down to the shed. This is their house, their shed, their barn, their cheese making factory, all in one. That's the Australians out the front there. Look at David Wakeman looking at the size of the bells. See all those bells there, they're tied around, they're actually used. They're tied around the cows, and each cow knows its own bell and ring, and apparently if it's not on, they get a bit upset about it. That's the countryside the cattle graze on. These are their drinking troughs, water troughs. Just a dugout log with just some pipe coming in out of the ground, I suppose, a mountain stream up there dribbling in. That plug there has a hole bored through the centre of it, and it drains out through the bottom. These are the cattle in the barn. See how they just sit there and know their place. You see their udders aren't as... The Swiss type of Simmental are not as milky or as beefy as the German or the Austrian type. The Austrian and the German type, which they call the Flegvi, he's a big boy, and he's no. They also make goat cheese. There's the little calves there. See that calf there? She's got the cups on her horns. See them there? To shape the horns. Shape them in that form. See the bells on the cows? Just laying there quite content. Just have a little rope around their neck just to keep them in place. This is their herd bull. This fella here, Emmanuel, on our right, not the fella holding the bull, but Emmanuel on the right, he's the head of the Swiss Simmental Society. This is their herd bull, quite a quiet bull. He's probably a little bit taller frame, not huge frame, but they're looking for bulls around the 1,000 to 1,200 kilos. They reckon he's about 1,000, this bloke. Walks well. He probably runs with the herd, I suppose, so that's why he walks so well. He can get up those hills, no problem at all. As you can see, quite mobile on his feet there for a bull that's a ton. Big frame bull, walking on that slippery concrete. Very good temperament. I suppose they, with the people all the time, they are. But as you can see, he doesn't have the thickness of those AI bulls. Of course, he's out working, and he's not getting. He's burning the energy off, I suppose, walking up those hills. But still in prime, in good condition, good working bull. That's Karen going up to him, snuggled up to him. See how they're led? Just a rope around the horns and through the nose ring. That's it. He's a big boy and he likes his cigar. I don't think that's a Nike cap he's got on. These are their milking cows, see? Very nice cows, very small teats, you see that? Suit the milking machines. Less chance of mastitis. That's the bell she's got on. It's probably one of their better cows. Quite a nice cow, eh? They walk well, pretty free moving, aren't they? I suppose on those hills they get all the exercise they want. But they're a little bit finer, as I said, quite slightly finer type. Emmanuel wants to take a bit of milk out of her. Another cow. This is the cow that was photographed in the sim beef. You'll recognise that position there. She was in the sim beef, which had the bit of a ride up on the tour. This is their cheese making machine. It's the middle of the lounge room. A fire on the floor, you see it? No power up there. See the batteries there operating the radio and the light. I don't think there was even a light in it. These people are getting a bit of a cheese cut up for us. Hospitality was great everywhere we went. They're boiling the billy first, and the cheese will now go over. See, it's being stirred up with a thermometer, high-tech thermometer in it. Paddle. That's the cheese press, another high-tech innovation. It's held down with rock weights. You'll see the rock weights. There's John Martin there. That is 200 kilograms of milk, and it will make 20 kilograms of cheese, he said. That's his thermometer there. Brings it up to, I think, to 68 degrees, something like that. You see all the battery wires running around everywhere there. And they live up here in the summer. Germany, it's called Neustadt. They are in collaboration also with Reed. This is a young bull coming out here. His name is Hold, H-O-L-D, 16 months old. Young test bull. They paid a lot of money for him, so they expect a good performance from him. $5,000 doses will be collected of him, and then 700 will be trialled. 10 to 12 young bull calves of his will be then tested, and I'll just pause it here and just give you some details on what measurements are taken of their progeny, how they test the performance of the calves of this bull. The calves come in between the 10th and 25th day of their life. Then they're measured, they're weighed at the 29th, 185th and 365th day. So that's at 1 month, 6 months and 12 months. And the measurements they take are with the height, body length, width of chest, depth of chest, chest girth, width of hips, round of beef, torus spiral. Then at 365 days they're measured for semen quality and serving ability. Those 12 calves, bull calves, are then slaughtered. Carcass measurements are live weight, carcass grade, which is our muscle score, weight of the offals, weight of fat of trim, dressed weight and dressing percentage, weight of the head and hide, weight of the gut and kidney fats, weight of the 4 long bones removed, carcass quartered at the 7th and 8th rib, and half is broken into Viennese primals, and the weight is measured. Then for meat quality, is assessed by measuring the pH value, conductivity, meat colour, marbling, fat distribution, the drip loss, grill loss, WB shear force, intramuscular fat, fatty acid composition, collagen content, water content, ash content, crude protein analysis, and then they have a sensory panel test for tasting of the beef. So that's how the estimated breeding value for the sire is tested out of his figures are got out of the 12 tested progeny. So I'll just play that on again. You can have a bit more of a look at this bull. They've paid a lot of money for this bull, and they have high expectations of him anyway. And his name is Hold, H-O-L-D. Seems pretty good on his feet and legs, fairly fine bone, not very heavy bone. So one would think that, calves should be fairly easy calving bull. You must consider always tied up, so they don't get to walk much. But after he's finished in the AI centre, he'll go out into a paddock somewhere and up in the hills, and then in summertime, that's in the summertime, in the winter time they'll come down and be penned. And if he goes well, he'll probably be collected again at the 3 and 4 years of age stage. This is the largest AI centre in, one of the largest in Bavaria, Neustadt. This bull here is Honer, Honer. I'll get you some figures of him in a second. I got a book here in front of me. I'll just pause him till I find it. No pigment on this bull, so that's his letdown for us. He's a son of Hold, H-O-L-D, the bull that I talked about before. All the other cattle I saw by Hold had pigment, and this guy, he's got none. So, but he's a very good performing bull for him. He has a total index of 134. His milk weight, or his milk value, 133. And his beef value is 121, so he's pretty high. As I said, 100 is the average, so he's 33% above average in milk and 20% above average in beef. He has a 96 score for frame, 111 for muscling, 110 for conformation, and 104 for udder. He's 1,100 kilos and he's 153 centimetres, so he's a little bit shorter than some of the other bulls, so he'd probably be, I don't know, about 6.5 frame. But he's 1,100 kilos there. His calving ease is 100 on the father side and 109 on the dam side. So that means 100 is average for the bull, for his sire, and 109 for his cow. This bull here I think is called Roman, R-O-M-E-N. I don't have him in the book here, so I can't tell you much about him, but his colour wouldn't appeal to a lot of people here. It's funny, a lot of the bulls that we saw were, better muscled, walked well and had easy fleshing on them. They were all this sort of colour. Very thick barrel bull there. A lot of length, a lot of meat there. If the other guy was 1,100, this guy would have to be the 1,250 plus. His handler's a lot bigger fella. This bull here is his name is Zaren, Z-A-R-E-N. He's a 1,200 kilo bull, 158 centimetres in height. He's by Zax out of Zeus. He has a milk value of 128 and a beef value of 107, so he's not as high as the other fella. Total merit index of 116. He's a calving ease 106 on his sire side and 88 on the dam side, so he's a more difficult calver. Big bull. Same thing. Right. Very long bull. We're only shown 5 bulls at this AI centre. They don't like to show too much. Oh, not that they don't like to, they're very worried about quarantine. Well, I can't blame them. This was before the BSE and the foot and mouth. I'm sure if we went over there today, they probably wouldn't let us into the place, let alone see the bulls. For fear of, because the bulls are totally isolated in virtual total quarantine conditions. No outside contact with any cattle at all. This last bull you see down there, he is their top bull at the moment. Doesn't suit our purposes, I think, but his name is Horwath. He's by horse. He has a milk value of 130 and a beef value of 102. So he's hot. He's much more suited to milk production. He has his wither height is 159 centimetres and his weight is 1,280 kilograms. Calving ease of 104 on his sire side and 96 on a dam, so about average. But see, he's too poppy-eyed for us, no hooding and no pigment either. He's got, why he's so good though, he has 110 for frame, these are 110 score, 109 for muscling, he has 112 for conformation, and he has 123 for udder. Now, you may look at that bull and say his conformation's not much chop. He's a 7-year-old bull, but his progeny come out that way. What they do, I'll just pause it there and tell you what they measure for in frame, muscling and conformation and udder. In frame they'll measure their height, the pelvic length, their body width, well you can see by looking at the animal now, body type and pelvic angle. When they muscle score, well you know what muscle score is, the Europe classification and so forth. I told you them before, all those other traits. Feet and legs, that's the what they call conformation. They measure the hock angle, hock development, fetlock and hoof wall, and the udder is the fore udder length is measured, the rear udder length, the rear udder beginning, central ligament, udder bottom, teat length, teat thickness, teat placement and udder cleanliness. So they're some of the measurements that are taken to assess an animal. And for milk, a cow, they will measure her production in kilograms, percentage in fat, like here, protein percentage. Beef value is measured in daily gain, dressing percentage, and their muscle score, and their functional traits, which is fitness, what you've heard me say, a fitness score. That's for calving ease, fertility, productive life, persistence, stillbirth, and somatic cell counts. So there's quite a lot of measurements taken, and these are independent measurements. They're not assessed by the owner of the animal. They have an independent fellow who will go around and look at the animal and give a scoring, and he's doing it all the time. So in Ireland, I should say, where the World Congress was held. These are his replacement heifers in good nick, as you can see. Quite a good temperament, a lot of people milling around them. These are some people from all over the world, Germans, Austrians, English, Irish, Canadians, the Americans, yeah. That's the that chappie there, he's the current world president of Simmental Society. These are the bulls, young bulls they're keeping, and their dams. Cattle are housed 6 months of the year, so they're always in good prime condition. This is their commercial herd. This chappie, I'm not sure what part he plays in the society. He's pretty high up. He could be somebody in the ministry in Ireland, and he exports a lot of his cattle go to Italy to be fattened over there. They like them very lean over there. No more than 3 mil of fat. Any more than 3 mil and they're penalised. I suppose because the cattle housed is quite a nice calf, that fella, out of a commercial cow. Because they're housed, the meat, I suppose, is more tender. And this is a barbecue they put on for us, and the Irish folk band, and a big barbecue for all the World Congress participants. I think there might have been about 250 there, so if we can get that many here in Australia, we'll be doing well. Max Cook there, and all the rest of the visitors. It's another farm we visited in Ireland. They had quite a big herd, probably, I don't know, 100 breeders or so. It's their farm. That's that chappie there, the big fella, that's Nolan. He owns Bar 5 in Canada. There's Peter Spears, they're the Brazilian contingent. It's a beautiful countryside. As you can see, they don't select for colour like we do. Skin cancer or eye cancer is not a problem over there. Beautiful house, beautiful estate. The cows are being herded from one place to another as people go and see them. Very thick type cows, good beefy cows. As you can see, quite a herd of them. They have another herd of replacement heifers over the other side. Poor old cow's not doing too well. Good calves on them. Plenty good lush feed. Most of these calves are by their own herd bull, yeah. Cattle are sort of the conditions, well, much the same as ours, I suppose. They run a bull with them and get the offspring and vealers, sell them off. These are their heifers, I'd say, yeah, these are the replacement heifers. Quite a good line of heifers, yeah. Very thick. They're all fairly quiet, I suppose. Being housed for 6 months of the year would make them a little bit more quiet than what they would normally be. I think that's it there, so I'll stop that. It's Laura Cockrell from Victoria doing a bit of the dance to the music. She doesn't realise that I'm taking the video. You're not, are you? She says. This is the Tullamore show now. I suppose it's their major show for the country. It's a big event, a lot of cattle, different breeds, held for one day event there. These are the, I think, 9 to 12 months class bulls. So they're quite thick bulls, aren't they? Well developed, heavily fleshed. A lot of these calves would be creep feed. They have a creep feeder. Most of them are creep fed. Good feed, and And then once they're weaned, they'll go straight into a pen. All the bull calves and go to one pen, and the heifers in another pen, and they're just fed in the pens. Good thick calves, very sappy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the 9 to 12 months class. They're very hairy, and they like them like that. And what they do is they get soap, saddle soap, and rub it into their coat, and then brush the coat up to make them look even hairier. It's the style they use over there for showing. Well developed, aren't they? This is another class now. This calf here, he's in the under 7 months class, if you believe it. Yeah, they're under 7 months of age, these bulls. They're nice and thick. You can see the soap or the hair brushed up and matted together with the soap. They had a big showing of Simmentals here for the World Congress. Turn the volume up on the TV and may hear something. It's a bit better, a bit of sound. Heifers under 7 months there. They don't calve their heifers over there till they're 3, so they get to pretty big animals. But I think a lot of them are starting to calve them at 2 now because they realise that they're getting too big and lose a little bit of that productivity, a bit too much fat in the udder.
This is the 2 to 2.5 year olds. That heifer there's 2 and she's the youngest one in the class.
Yeah, see, that's a 2-year-old heifer. 2 to 2.5, Karen just said. These are dairy shorthorns. Karen milks Illawarras, which are similar to these in type, so she thought she'd take a bit of film of them. They don't have the conformation or the body, the power like the cows do here, but nice little cow. I'll fast forward it so that we'll get through it pretty quick because there's quite a few other breeds in that, but they may interest somebody. If I see something that's of interest, I'll stop it. These are the steers. This fellow's a Belgian Blue cross Charolais, I think. Massive. Yeah. The other fellow you saw before, see how wide he is from behind. They love that muscling. They've got to have that double muscle virtually. They want them very lean, as I said.
Like that?
The other fellow was the Belgian Blue Cross Lima. Hank.
Like that? Massive. 900 kilograms, just a bit out of thick. Beltex sheep.
These are Beltex sheep. You've heard of Belgian Blues. Well, these are the double-muscled variety equivalent in sheep.
The Belgian Blue equivalent in sheep.
There you go. Yeah.
You got that, eh?
It's a Jacob sheep.
Jacob sheep.
Got the 4 horns.
Meh.
Back to the cattle again. These are cows and calves. Big bodied cows.
Body to them, Are you?
It's a champion cow.
Here we go.
She won Grand Champion cow, and I think also Best Exhibit. Actually, it was the Heifer. She won Best Exhibit, yeah. Being presented a bell from the Austrian Simmental Society. Plenty of width there.
Style of him.
I think they're looking for pairables here. See this fella here, he's got a heavily muscled bull. Almost got that double muscling of the Belgian Blue. That's what they're trying to breed into their simmies over there. Or some breeders are. Now, whether they think it's going the right way or not, they're not sure, but it's what the market wants, it's that heavy muscling. You can see it there, just that bull that just went past. I think this is for Best Exhibit. I think the cow got it. The bull got second. So he's finding it difficult to walk that bull. With these heavily muscled there, you see. Fairly post-legged. These are only my comments too. It's only my opinion and what I saw. Everybody sees things differently, but that's just the way I saw it, so I'll leave you to make your own judgment. You can always turn the volume off. Yeah, this is the show they put on for the World Congress, so this will be similar to what we put on at Sydney in 2002, next year.
Yeah. Oh, he's good. Well, he might be good for their cattle. That's what you've got.
Texas boy.
We've got to pop the champagne. Watch you don't take your eye out.
This fella here is Pedro, I forget his surname, he's publicity officer, does the office work for the Simmental Society in Ireland. They organised all the World Congress. Yeah, good for you.
Give him a drink. Give him a drink.
Give him a drink. Looks like piddledies. This cow here, I think she won commercial cow. There, that's a commercial cow. She's a 3/4 cow with a full purebred, a 7/8 calf at foot, and she won best commercial cow and calf unit. Very good calf. He's by one of the bulls that we'll see a bit later on. He's in the AI centre by a bull called an Austrian bull called Hercules. Very thick calf, straight off his mum. I suppose he's had a bit of feed down his throat too. This is I think like a handless comp for the women. The women put on a handless comp. This is a field day we went to. This is Celtic hunter. You'll see some of this fella's calves out in the paddock. See the soap, the hairy coat. Another bull alongside him, Celtic high flyer. They had a field day where they showed off the bulls and then had their progeny in the paddocks, cows with their calves at foot. This is the other bull, Celtic high flyer. Some of the Australians were interested in him because of his coat and his colour. Quite a long bull. Very thick bull, this bloke. Moderate frame. Some people were interested in bringing his semen in also, but now with the outbreak of foot and mouth, Australia stopped all imports of animal products. That's semen, embryos. You can't bring anything in. There's another bull they had there. Some people were interested in. He didn't appeal to me, but anyway. These are the cows and their calves out in the paddock. Drizzling day over there. You see that? That's what you call a creep feeder there. Allows the calves to get in to the grain. The cows can't. Some good calves out here. These are a couple of older calves here. I don't know whether they're straight on the mothers, but I think the big fellow is 600 kilos. It surprised me because he's running with, they got that heifer in there. They've probably just been brought there for the day and hoped that she doesn't come on heat. broken coloured cattle. As I said, colour's not important to them. A lot of Austrian bloodlines in their herds. You can probably pick the Austrian type cattle or dairy type, maternal type cows. Siegfried come out of Ireland, or his semen came from Ireland, but he was an Austrian bull. 25,000 doses they took out of Siegfried. Thick cow. You see it's drizzling there. They reckon it drizzles just about every day in Ireland. Good handy cows, eh? Good cows.
Even this bloke, too, you know.
Quite different marking for a Simmental, that calf, isn't he? This is at a bull centre at Sligo. This bull here and the other big red bull, they are both by that Hercules, Sterling Hercules was his name. But Sterling Simmental's imported in from Austria. And you'll see a couple of cows later at the Sterling herd by Sterling Hercules. These were on, as you can see, they're just same thing, just tied up by the chain. I think this guy's name's Friegduff Brendan. Yeah. So they're both by Sterling Hercules, those bulls. And there's a little bull here, he's by one of these bulls here. But he had very, very bad back feet. Can't see him there, but his claws were rolled right over. They had these bulls tied, Charolais bulls there. They had these, there's a Belgian blue over there. They had these bulls tied on that walking machine, and to make it look as if they had got exercise there, but it was never used, I think. The gears had been rusted up, so they just brought them out there to parade for us, and as you can see, they're all very stiff, the bulls. Heavily muscled Charolais bull. Charolais is very popular because of their heavy muscling. I think he was 13, that bull there, Friegduff Brendan. Darrow's Killarney. Okay, I'll stop that there. This is just a bit of sightseeing now, and I think on northwest coast. This is at a bull performance station where people send their calves in, or bull calves in, to be fattened. Not so much fattened, but tested to check for growth rate. They're sent in at, I think, about 12 months of age. That ball on their neck allows them, only that bull, to drink, to eat from his feed trough, and it determines, well, it is able to measure how much feed is going in, and then they can correlate the feed conversion ratio. So that's why there's all different bulls in here. And there's, you know, they put on quite a bit of weight, but a lot of them had a lot of red hocks. Because they're just fed ad lib grain, they can help themselves to whatever they want. And there's quite a nice Charolais, very thick. But of all the breeds, the highest average daily gain are the Simmentals. These are the types of Simmentals they said they're going for now. That's the modern type, and this is the older type that they had before, the taller framed animal. This is at the Irish Racing Stud, and that's vintage crop. Won the Melbourne Cup here a good few years ago. He's at the Irish stable. He's a gelding, of course, but because he won. This is at the Hockenhull herd. These are their cows. It's a bull they're using, their herd bull called Kojak. These are their cows, stud cows. They've scaled down their operations, like most of the larger stud herds. Quite an impressive looking bull, Kojak. Fairly high birth weight, 54 kilograms. impressed a lot of the people on tour. He's a young sire, that's I think a 2-year-old bull. Very well looked after, the cows are good pastures, you know, virtually understocked, I suppose you'd call. Nice, quiet, lovely, thick cows. This is the farm manager. Getting a bale of hay out for the cows to come, but they were quite full. This is another sire and another running with some more cows. I forget his name.
It's totally. Oh, yeah.
These are another mob of cows. These have the young bulls with them.
From my angle, just see what's on these cows, haven't you? From my angle back there,
There's some of the young bulls.
Whole herd. These are the young bulls.
Yeah.
Cow on heat there, and there must be 6 or 7 little bulls around it. All getting excited. Yeah.
I think those were the calving heifers were in one of the supposed poorer paddocks. There's a polled bull being prepared for the Perth sales. I think about 19 months old, 900 kilograms.
These are 16 months old cows.
16, sorry, that fella.
Bulls. He's 18 months old.
18 months, that fella.
And the other bull there's a 19 month old.
He's 19, yeah.
900 kilos at 18 months, these bulls.
900 at 18 months, if you didn't hear it correctly. These bulls being prepared for the Perth bull sales.
Beautiful muscle. Stick, isn't he? Jeez, he's got some volume in it.
These are younger bulls again that are, as I said, when they're weaned, they're put in these pens as such, and then they're just fed ad lib and fattened for the bull sales.
All right. Yeah.
That's the principal, the Hock and Hull Magnum. Oh, Hock and Hull Stud, I should say. Hock and Hull Magnum, you would have heard of him.
Look at the arse in that calf. Dunfield's Gallon. That one's by Klingen. Yeah. And that one's by Klingen, is it?
Some of their own bulls, I'd say. Yeah. This is the, we're now at the Caldwell Simmental stud herd. These are much more commercially orientated. As you can see, they push their cattle pretty hard. Not as much feed as the last stud, as Hock and Hulls. They have they were originally Herefords. They only have 6 Herefords left, and soon to be none at all.
Jeez. It's got good feet, that red cow.
Very, very commercially orientated. Yeah, Roger Caldwell, Junior. Yeah. Quite a big farm it is, quite a big estate. Grow a lot of wheat.
You heard that before? He's going to do this and he's going to do that. They're never going to do that.
If it were today, we wouldn't be allowed anywhere near these farms, I suppose, with the threat of BSE. And foot and mouth, I'd say, should say.
Yes, yeah, I saw him. He was up near the top.
So herd bull. The Caldwell stud are in conjunction with a Sachem, I think, and another stud, and they use bulls between themselves to what they call fast track proven bulls. That bull there, he's a bull they bought at the sales. His name's Foremost, 1,400 kilos and used over heifers.
How's that for body thickness? Right? That's the body.
Yeah, 1,400 kilos he is.
That's a 10-year-old cow.
So these are their young bull calves. I think a couple of these are by Foremost, that bull you just saw. They're very happy with his calves. They all display the thickness that his father's got. You see there?
That's better.
Yeah, these will go to being fattened, or I suppose reared for the stud sales. That's how they're kept. Very excellent temperament. Very moderate frame like their father.
There's a ton of flesh on them, isn't there?
These are the Foremost calves. These are the heifers that have just been weaned in a pen, put together and just fed ad lib. You can hear the mix all going. Dark red heifer there. Solid red. And these are the bull calves that are the weaners, yeah.
Caldwell stud.
The straw is just piled higher and higher as it gets soiled, and then they just muck it out twice a year. This is the Roxall stud. Wroxall, Roxall. These are bulls that have been weaned again and just fed ad lib. That's a mixture there. That's the feed, put in a mix all.
For the Roxall farm?
A couple of bulls that are going to the sale next month. These are their cows, Roxall's cows.
Aren't they? Those young girls there.
Derringer on the mouth. She's due to calve in about a week's time to Milnafield Grenade. So she'll be calving at sort of 2.5 years old. The other heifer is an August 98 born. She's a Stratila Capricorn daughter. And she'll be calving in January. Basically we're calving about between 2 years and 4 months and 2 years and 8 months. His sire was known for throwing the odd big calf. So we just tend to...
Well, it's rubbish in the paddock, but yes.
England.
He was very commercial, and they were calving their heifers something like 18 months.
Yeah, that's true.
To Jersey.
To Jersey, that's right.
Yes, I know what
Yes,
you mean.
yes,
Right.
yes, yeah. And we'll make it. We've all got our already. First thing I was getting back in the yard, we used to always cut it short, you know.
Was it jumping back in?
Yeah, cut it. What we have to do is turn it right down there and
I think Peter. Yeah, he's got somebody coming, he said, because he rang him up and I think he's running late. He said, oh, that's good, because I've got some unexpected, something on.
I'm just trying to stop them from galloping off, Johnny.
I cut to it.
Big cows, eh? Simmental herd was their shed full of headers and well, the machinery unbelievable. That's because of their government subsidies. These are their cows. Scaled down their operation quite dramatically they have. I think they only have about 35 breeders or stud cows. This is the last farm we've visited in England and on the tour. From here we went to London and then back home. That's Sterling Flint's mother. I don't know if you've heard of Sterling Flint. You've heard of Sterling Parliamentarian, of course.
Sterling Flint's mother?
This is a Hercules cow. She'll have a piece of you. Big body, big volume cow.
You got a charger? There you go, that's a good shot. That looks like her little calf. Beautiful day, isn't it, eh? Yeah, it's good to get the calf. Hold on! Where the cow's going to...
Look out.
Right.
She's a monster. She'd have to be 800.
Well, good.
I think she's heavier than 800. I think she's nearly a ton, that cow.
And the yearling heifer, that's also by Flint.
These are the show team. The two heifers are by Flint.
We bought their galaxy first and also with a lot of project famous a couple of years ago.
In a class, yeah.
It's just giving away a bit of size.
Yes, that's what I was just going to say. Yes,
But the calf, they had a special competition
yeah,
yesterday.
yeah, right.
The best calf
Right.
from the cows.
Yeah.
And she won it easily.
Really? Yeah. Easily. That's grand, isn't it?
She's a heifer.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Anyway, it gives you a bit of an idea on what's the conditions and the cattle that are there, the different types that suit us.
The wheels on the tractor.
Horses for courses, I suppose, as they say. But as I said, these are only my opinions. You make your own judgment on them. I hope you've enjoyed it. I never get sick of looking at this. These are the rest of their herd. They had them in 2 lots. Make a lot of cropping. They crop a lot of cereals, Sterling now.
What's he like for calving?
They have,
He's been used a lot in Australia.
talking about Sterling Parliamentarian, I think that's probably one of his daughters or sister or something.
Yes, no, she's a thick cow, isn't she, eh?
She's been bred last year. She went in calf this time. She would have got.
Yeah, she'd have gone. Because he's carrying a fair bit of weight.
Next January.
This January, right.
With the cattle being housed for the winter period, I suppose they remain in peak condition too.
At a year old, 12 months old.
They say they're housed through the winter
Yes.
so they don't damage the pastures so much.
Yeah, Hercules cow also.
It's another Hercules cow, Austrian sire. These are the young bulls, put into pens and fed and for the shows and also for the sale, the bull sales. These have only just come in, so they're not in prime condition, I suppose. I think this is the end of the tape now, so.
Yeah, definitely. Lovely red eye. Yeah. Nice.
Austria, the mountainous country in the heart of Europe, has a long tradition of animal husbandry. In this, the spotted Simmental is particularly important, accounting for approximately 1.6 million of the total 2.6 million cattle in Austria. The Simmental breeding area extends over 8 of Austria's 9 federal states. In 1930, Simmental cattle accounted for about a quarter of the total stock in Austria. Nowadays, the share is over 81%. Breeders' associations promote the breeding development and spread of the Simmental in the individual states. The breeding area stretches from the high alpine regions over 2,000 meters above sea level to the lower mountain ranges and the Pannonian part of Austria at an altitude of up to 100 meters. These differences mean the Simmental has to cope with a wide variety of living and feeding conditions. The Simmental can be left on pasture land and is able to exploit even sparse pastures. Systematic breeding practice over the decades has made good use of these extreme conditions and has succeeded in combining the productive characteristics of the breed to increase both the milk and meat output by leaps and bounds. The first Simmental Breeders' Association in Austria was founded in Scherding in 1894. Since then, precise records have been kept of all breeding stock. The influence of important bloodlines can still be clearly traced today. Around the turn of the century, regular herd books were introduced, which have given way today to modern index systems. Electronic data processing enables all performance data to be evaluated more quickly and effectively for the breeder's purposes. The result of this targeted work is a breeding bull which embodies the required breeding aims for the Simmental in Austria today. A 6-year-old bull weighs 1,300 kilograms, with a wither height of 160 centimeters. Good milking characteristics and a high milking speed are essential for the rational use of milking machines. More and more importance is attached to the milkability test. both to the precise quarter milk test for nursing cows and to the simplified method for all first calving cows. Milking capacity is certified in Austria according to the stipulations of the International Committee for Performance Tests. Milk, fat, protein, cell count and urea tests are conducted fully automatically with the Milko test in central laboratories in each federal state. A central computer evaluates the data of all Austrian cattle and provides access to all the information necessary for breeding and management decisions. The results of the cell count and urea tests are passed on immediately to the farmers to expedite fast decisions concerning any treatment necessary.
From the 1st of January, when the new EU Animal Marking Directive 8/2097 came into force, all calves are to be given two identical markings on both ears. This means that the previous tattoo is replaced by the second ear mark. The new markings include a barcode, so that the calf's individual number can also be read electronically.
For many years, the whole of Austria has been officially certified as free of TBC, brucellosis, leukosis, and IBR-IPV. The Austrian Simmental breeding program has for many years successfully focused on combined breeding for milk, meat, and secondary characteristics. The proportions are 55% milk production, 35% meat yield, and 10% secondary characteristics. An exact assessment of the breeding cows and the random employment of test animals, together with the most up-to-date methods to determine breeding value, guarantee dependable breeding value assessment. Butchery performance tests are conducted at the Königshof State Laboratory Farm. For every breeding bull, 12 uncastrated male offspring are tested, starting on the 29th day of life. The fodder consists of pelleted dry fodder. It's fed to each animal individually under strict controls in the required amounts. Precise documentation provides an exact record of the economic value of the animals. The animals are measured after 29, 185, and 365 days. The test is concluded with the last measurement on the 365th day. According to the Königshof test, the butchery exploitation of Austrian Simmental cattle amounts to 60%. Each carcass is cut up, processed and evaluated according to international testing standards. Meat colouring is one of the criteria used to assess the meat quality. Another is what's known as the grill test. This involves weighing a selected piece of meat, in this case a piece of strip loin, and grilling it under controlled conditions. The core temperature is 60 degrees Celsius. After grilling, the weight loss is measured. A sample is taken to test slice strength, which is a measure of the tenderness or toughness of meat. A tasting test employs the human senses to judge the tenderness, juiciness, and flavor of the beef. The results are registered and evaluated. The findings from the laboratory farm form the basis for economic beef production on the country's farms. In most cases, farm-produced fodder is used, especially maize silage. Structural changes in Austrian agriculture have resulted in specialized fattening units, which are now able to produce first-class meat from Simmental cattle. Few breeds of cattle are suitable as suckler cows. The Austrian Simmental possesses all the characteristics required for this application, such as good-naturedness, good mothering qualities, and easy calving without veterinary help. Because the sucking reflex is very well developed in the calves, the milk is easily taken up. The high milk yield guarantees optimum rearing conditions and high weight gain for the calves. The Simmental's good combination of milk and meat yield makes it an important animal for crossbreeding purposes. In a wide range of countries, native breeds are improved by interbreeding with Austrian Simmentals. Breeding bulls represent a valuable resource of the Austrian Simmental rearing industry. They're kept in ideal conditions in the artificial insemination centers, embodying as they do the great potency of the industry. The best calves from planned matings are tested to provide precise development monitoring up to breeding age. Uniform environmental conditions facilitate genetic assessment and selection. Through artificial insemination, the best breeding strains can quickly be disseminated. The bull's semen can be conserved through deep freezing in liquid nitrogen at a temperature of minus 197 degrees Celsius, until the results of the breeding test are available and the bull's breeding value established. This reduces the breeding risk to a minimum. Artificial insemination has contributed greatly to the excellent and uniform development of Simmental breeding in Austria. The large number of female offspring of a single bull gives a very good idea of the bull's genetic transmission strength. At large shows, families of cows are also presented to show that the hereditary influence of an important breeding cow on its female offspring can still be a significant factor in the modern breeding world. The extraction and transfer of embryos now offers the possibility of considerably increasing the number of offspring from valuable breeding cows. Since the early days of breeding activity, major livestock shows have enabled comparisons to be made between animals and promoted competition between breeders. They're still an annual highlight in the Simmental breeders' year. The shows are particularly festive occasions when a breeders' association celebrates an anniversary. Whether on a large or small scale, livestock shows still fulfill an important role in our modern age of genetic progress. They're a showcase for current achievements act as a source of information for anyone interested in animal husbandry, and spur on those involved to further joint effort. Hand-embroidered collars with bronze bells are the much sought-after prizes for winning animals. At about 120 auctions a year, Austrian Simmental breeders' associations offer carefully selected breeding cattle for sale. Precise details about each individual animal in the auction catalogues provide buyers with the comprehensive information they need to make their purchase decisions.
Before every purchase, the new earmark and tattoo, or for breeding animals born from the 1st of January 1998, the markings on both ears, are carefully checked.
Blood group tests are conducted on all breeding bulls to guarantee their lineage. Alongside the auctions for adult cattle, which have been successfully established for years, in many areas of Austria, auctions for calves have been introduced, in which up to several hundred animals are offered for sale. These auctions are an opportunity for buying high-grade breeding calves, which in consequence of the division of labour are supplied by milk-producing farms to breeding farms, as they're called. They're also the best opportunity for fattening units to select and buy calves.
13.000 zum dritten und letzten Mal. 13.000 Schilling. 7.200 zum
The large numbers of calves on offer at these auctions, sometimes between 500 and 600, and the good organisation by the associations responsible, plus the purchase advice available, help even less experienced buyers to make the right decisions.
20.000, 28.000 zum ersten, zum zweiten und zum 29, 30, 31.000, 35.000 zum ersten, zum zweiten und zum 36.000, zum ersten, zum zweiten und zum 45.000. Stiertelsgenossenschaft Bulham, Helter, Edelbauer, Johann, Bulham, 33.000. 33.000 zum ersten, zum zweiten und zum dritten und letzten Mal 33.
High mountains and the impressive mountain scenery form the backdrop for the hard work that's carried out in Austria's broad stretches of alpine pasture land. It's a great effort for both the farmers and their animals to reach the high pastures, but for many farms it's an economic necessity because the lower pastures don't provide enough fodder for the whole year round. The high alpine pastures make great demands on the cattle, but also strengthen their resistance and health. The Simmental copes very well with extreme conditions, adjusting to its environment quickly and easily. Simmental calves are also taken up to the alpine pastures at an early age, where they're free to run around to their heart's content. A speciality of Austrian Simmental rearing are the mountain pastures for bulls, where fully grown herd-book bulls spend the summer together. After tough ranking battles at the beginning, every bull assumes its fixed place in the herd during the alpine summer. The break in breeding activity, the mineral-rich feed on the alpine pastures, and the struggle with the forces of nature improve the bull's condition and prolong their lives. Driving the cattle back down to the lower valleys is an annual festival for both locals and visitors. The animals have withstood all the rigors of the changeable alpine summer and return home healthy and strong. With the help of modern breeding methods, Austria's Simmental breeders work together in production conditions which are often far from easy to achieve and accelerate progress in the breeding industry. This ensures that both native farmers and those involved throughout the world can continue to enjoy the benefits of a successful breed of cattle. Simmental cattle from Austria.
The cattle with white patches and white heads, also called Simmental in many countries. Fleckvieh secures the holder's income through milk and meat of excellent quality. In Bavaria, 5 million Fleckvieh are the basis for thousands of farmers. 100 years of breeding efforts in the last decades, with most modern methods, have formed this reliable double-purpose cattle. Fleckvieh is the alternative and well-suited for different environments. A modern Fleckvieh breeder presents his farm. Fleckvieh as a double-purpose breed is the economic cow. Our income is secured by a high milk yield and by outstanding fattening performance. We milk 42 cows with an average milk yield of 7,000 kilograms with more than 4% butterfat. Despite the high milk production, we have a 366 days calving period. Our cows are on the average 8 years old. Our farm is run as a closed circuit. We fatten the bull calves ourselves. Our Fleckvieh bulls reach 600 kilograms live weight within 15 months. That means an average daily gain of more than 1,300 grams. Preconditions are a maize silage of good quality and 3 kilograms concentrate per day. These results and quality of our Fleckvieh herd we owe to the close cooperation between our breeding association and AI station Besamungsverein Neustadt an der Aisch. Without the consequent use of AI, such a genetic improvement would not have been possible. In smaller-sized farms, the cows are usually tied up. With basic fodder, Fleckvieh produce up to 4,000 kilograms milk without any additional concentrate. Due to time-saving barn system, the cows need a considerable constitution. The good claws and great adaptability are advantages of the Fleckvieh which pay off especially under hard climatic conditions. Even in the mountainous regions, one can expect good milk production of the Fleckvieh. Kilometer-long paths to pasture are no problem. Heifers that have been raised under such conditions have passed the endurance test already. Another way to use pasture of inferior quality is to keep suckler cows. This has made the Fleckvieh from Bavaria famous in all beef breeding areas in the world. Speed, utilization and adaptability. Good behavior of the bull. Easy calving and excellent mothering abilities. High fertility and high weaning weight thanks to good milk production. Excellent suitability for crossbreeding purposes, even with polled Fleckvieh, and good-natured cows raising more than one calf at the same time. These are the traits which count in the beef production. In Bavaria, the Fleckvieh calves have a brand name. The higher selling price of the Fleckvieh calf compared to the more dairy-type breeds is a further argument for the profitability of Fleckvieh. Weaned bull calves with 160 to 200 kilograms are an ideal basis for an efficient fat stock keeping. Meat performance has the same rating as milk production. The Fleckvieh guarantees 1,250 grams increase with adequate feeding. Fleckvieh is suited for every barn system, as well as in feedlots or on concrete slats. The well-muscled fattening bulls attain best slaughtering results with a carcass dressing percentage of 60% and more. The well-marbled and tender quality meat fulfill the high demand of the customer, secure best grading and a good price for the cattleman. The Bavarian Fleckvieh, as it is today, is highly profitable based on milk, beef, fertility and longevity and fattening capacity. This success is the result of many participants. The breeder in its organizations, such as breeding associations, AI stations, the governmental breeding institutions, and efficient marketing associations. Due to this success, the Fleckvieh has won an international reputation. The demand from foreign countries was therefore natural. Decades, the Fleckvieh from Bavaria has demonstrated its profitability and productiveness under different conditions. An example of the success of the breed can be seen in Spain.
En el año 1968-69 se realizó un estudio de las razas europeas que podían ser idóneas para su explotación.
In 1968-69, a comparison between European cattle races was undertaken with the intention of finding the cattle race which is suited for our region in Aragon, especially for the mountain ranges of the Pyrenees and the irrigated areas with intensive feed crop production. At that time, one came to the conclusion, and today we can confirm this, that the decision for Fleckvieh was right. Fleckvieh is suited very well as a dual-purpose breed, especially due to its easy handling and its good adaptability to the different climatic conditions which we have here. On the finca El Turillon, we currently milk 350 cows with an average of 5,400 kilograms milk with 3.8 to 4% butterfat. Very important is the fattening performance between 1,200 and 1,300 grams per day. These achievements were only possible due to the close cooperation with the Besamungsverein Neustadt an der Aisch. Important was the consultation when choosing the appropriate AI bulls. This led to the high breeding standard of the Fleckvieh in Spain today.
En España consideramos de selección y mejora de la raza Fleckvieh.
Besides the industrial milk production, Fleckvieh has proven successfully its stoutness under hard conditions like those in the Pyrenees. doubt, this animal, with its good-natured character and its easy handling, can be called the milking cow with family connection. The adaptability, combined with a high intake of fodder, makes the decision for Fleckvieh easy. High milk and meat performance, fertility and longevity make the investment for especially the family farm economical. In Bavaria, the Fleckvieh is the leading breed. Worldwide, we find 35 million cattle. In this success, everyone can participate. It is very economic to buy pregnant heifers.
Auch in der 18, 230, 486, 907.000 zum ersten, zum zweiten und 7.000 Mark. Dritten Mal.
Depending on the market and environment, one can choose the suitable type. The variation within the breed makes this possible. For dairying, the Heifers derive from herdbook cows with an average of 6,000 kilograms milk and are pregnant by a positive tested bull. Such elite cows can be reserved as donators for embryo transfer. For the specialized farmer, weaned calves are offered for intensive beef production. These bull calves weigh between 160 to 200 kilograms. They are already accustomed to maize silage and concrete slats. About 1,000 calves are on sale every week. The insemination is a prerequisite for the high performance level in animal breeding. The Besamungsverein Neustadt an der Aisch, as an association of cattle breeders, is the leading artificial insemination station in Europe. 95% of the Bavarian Fleckvieh is inseminated. 120 bulls are performance tested annually. A sophisticated test program secures breeding progress. Experienced herdsmen care for the breeding bulls. The big offer of 160 bulls can fulfill the different requirements of the breeder. These qualities are the results of many years of selection and a close cooperation with the associations and the governmental breeding program. The hygienic standard concerning the keeping of the bulls and semen collection is high and is controlled by an official veterinarian. Thanks to the large-scale prevention measures, the Besamungsverein Neustadt fulfill the export requirements for all countries. Repeated qualities control guarantees good fertility results. Highly modern packing and freezing methods allow worldwide distribution. Thanks to deep freezing, the exchange of sperma and embryos knows no borders. The many years of experience in exporting semen by the Besamungsverein Neustadt an der Aisch and the close cooperation with a foreign partner has promoted the worldwide introduction of flag feed. Bull parade of the Besamungsverein Neustadt an der Aisch displays the high breeding level of its bulls. It attracts flag fee breeders from all over the world. Top sires tested for high milk and meat performance combined with easy calving are available. Another service made available by the Besamungsverein in Neustadt an der Aisch consists of an advice and follow-up system on breeding, veterinary and technical problems by its experts, caring that flag fee in a new home can demonstrate their abilities.
Let us sum up. Flag fee is the largest breeding organization worldwide with 31 member countries and more than 40 million animals. The origin of the breed is in the Simmental Valley in Switzerland. Flag fee is the most important beef breed in North and South America and is at home on all continents. In the former Soviet Union and China, flag fee is represented by more than 20 million animals. Flag fee has been successful under hard and cold conditions, as well as in rainy or dry climate zones, whether purebred or as a partner in crossbreeding. This easy adaptability guarantees the highest possible profitability. During the last 10 years, polled herds for beef production have been established. Daughters of this breeding program are also milk performance tested. Positive proven and genetically polled AI bulls are now available. As a dual-purpose breed, flag fee ensures economic success in large industry-like herds as well as on small family farms. The enormous increase of the performance during the last 50 years was decisively influenced by the use of AI and embryo transfer. The BVN can look back on 50 years of experience, depending on the farm management and feeding conditions, an average performance between 5,000 and more than 8,000 kilograms of milk with very good fat and protein contents and a low somatic cell score is possible. Top performance is not a breeding goal, rather a continuous performance at a high level. The beef component, which is part of the breeding goal, guarantees that male calves, heifers, and slaughtering cows remain a calculatory economic factor. Flag fee is and will remain a dual-purpose breed with the best profitability and its own identity.